All right, welcome everybody. I think this is like my third live stream, so I'm excited. Thanks everyone for hanging out. The Arc, what's up? I'ma add you to mod. Oh, you already are a mod. Sup, Joe? It's good to see you guys. So today, we're gonna briefly go over how to read an Explorer. So let me bring this up real quick. The first website that I'm going to use is Blockcypher. And then we'll look at explore.litecoin.net because that's also a good one. Now the reason why I thought it'd be good for us to go over block explorers is because I actually use this a lot when I help like noobs. So a lot of times newcomers will be they'll send transactions, let's say from Coinbase to their Electrum, right? And then they'll be like, I don't see anything. I don't see my Litecoin. And then so one of two things happen. It's either the transaction hasn't arrived into the wallet yet, or Coinbase hasn't sent it yet. And so a lot of times when these newcomers come onto the R Litecoin subreddit, they're like, where's my Litecoins? I don't see it in my wallet. The first thing I tell them to do is to check the Explorer. Right? And so what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to copy and paste the address that you sent the Litecoin to, paste it in here, and it'll let you know whether the Litecoin network sees it or not, right? And so I feel like that's pretty basic. I feel like a lot of us know like that's how you're supposed to use an Explorer. But I kind of wanted to break down like the more advanced details of what you would see on an Explorer. So this is Blockcypher, and as you see, there's like the recent blocks that they've recorded, current fee estimates. This is helpful, and when those dynamic wallets that you have, I think Loaf Wallet and maybe Coinbase and stuff. I think some of them pull their information from these APIs. And so explorers, they keep track of all the fees that go out, and then they try to assess and give you a good estimate of what the recommended fee would be in order to get like high priority, medium priority, low priority. So that's pretty cool. And then you have like the latest transactions. All right, so I'm going to click on this right here. So this represents a block, and should give us, it's not lagging, it's lagging. So here what we see is this block was received like 17 minutes ago. In this block, there were 84.2423 Litecoins total that were transacted in this block and recorded. And this whole block contained a total of 0.166 Litecoin. So that's what that's saying. And then all of these right here, all of these right here is just it just gives you the details of what the transactions are. So every single transaction it's labeled here. And then at the bottom, so this is just page 1. So there's actually not too many transactions in this block, only 7. But if it gets to like 10 or 15 or more than that, it'll go to like page 2, 3, 4, and you can keep track that way. And so let's talk about these transactions real quick. So this is what you would consider like a basic transaction. You have one input and one output, right? And these transactions cost maybe like, or the size of this type of transaction is about 200 kilobytes, because you provide one signature to cash out of this, and you provide another signature to send it. So the total amount of block space that a standard transaction would take is about 200 kilobytes, and we can like figure that out if we click on that. It'll show you the details, events details, the size of the transaction. Yeah, it's about like 200 bytes. Now what this means, let's say how do I interpret this block right here, right? So that means the address associated with these, you have 4 sources, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sources of income, and they're all being spent and sent to this address right here, right? So whatever address that the Litecoins received, it had like 1.6, 0.5, 0.05, 1.1. All of these are separate inputs that go into the Litecoin address. And then you've got to provide signatures for each one of these inputs, and then you send it, and then you accumulate all that, and then you send it into a Litecoin or into that address. And then here's the thing. So notice how that there are a whole lot more transactions, right? There's 10 inputs consumed. And if you add all of these inputs together, it'll give you 19.16. Each input that you get, you have to provide a signature. And each signature that you provide takes up space. So that's why the size of this transaction right now is about 1.8 kilobytes. So when you're trying to estimate how much Litecoin you want to, or what the fee you want to send your Litecoin with, you should take the size of your transaction and divide it by the minimum Litecoin fee per kilobyte. And so it would be 0.01 or 0.001 Litecoin divided by the 1.8. So that'll let you know what you should put in for your minimum fee. If it's lower than that, it may get relayed, but there's no guarantee. Cool. So let's go to the advanced details for Blockcypher. Basically, there are things that are inside of a block header, and these are the details that you would see on a block header. So let me show you briefly what I'm talking about. So the process of mining, you hash the nonce plus the block header, and that equals the difficulty. The difficulty is what the Litecoin network gives you, and you're trying to solve below the threshold of the difficulty. And so you see the nonce and the block header, and that block header is composed of all the different things that we saw under the advanced details of the Blockcypher. Right, so block size, that tells you like how big the block is. Nonce. So nonce is kind of interesting. Nonce is the number that miners are actually looking for. So if we go back to this real quick, in a Litecoin software wallet, you'll see your Litecoin daemon will give you something called the block header, and miners will go through nonces. So nonces is just a random number that they choose, right? And what they're doing is they're adding a nonce to the block header, and then they're hashing it, SHA-256. They're hashing it, or actually, I guess for Litecoin it's script. Sorry about, yeah. But they hash it, and then once you hash it, that gives you the difficulty. And once that equals below the threshold for the difficulty, then you can submit your block to the blockchain. And so the nonce, so what the miner is doing is they're generating thousands and thousands of numbers and trying all these different types of combinations so that they can reach the difficulty level. So that's what nonce is. And you'll see that the nonce is going to be different for every block. And the idea of a nonce is that you're technically only supposed to use it once. Next you have like the Merkle root. The Merkle root, this is when all the transactions in the block are hashed together, and then you create a Merkle root. And so this is pretty useful for SPV clients. SPV clients, instead of downloading all the transactions from the block, all they really need to do is just download the Merkle root. And then the Merkle root will basically confirm whether or not a transaction was in the block or not. And so this is one technique SPV clients use to stay lightweight. And then difficulty, let's see, bit difficulty. So difficulty is the current difficulty of the block. And so if you look at different blocks, you'll see that it's the same, 436, 481, 710. If you look at another block, it'll be the same. 436481710. This is the information that's propagated through the Litecoin network, and that's how everybody knows. Okay, that's what the difficulty is set. And after every 2016 blocks, the difficulty is readjusted. So if blocks are getting solved faster than 2.5 minutes, then the difficulty gets increased. If it gets solved slower than 2.5 minutes, then the difficulty decreases. Version number, this lets you know what software that your miner is running. And so this is how, you know how people have talked about for Segwit, activating Segwit, or how miners signaled for Segwit 2x. People know that they're doing that by looking at the version that they're running, and they put down the version of their software inside the block header. And lastly, for this one, for Blockcypher, the IP relayed by, this tells you who is relaying the block. And so sometimes block explorers will tie IP addresses to companies, but sometimes they don't. And so yeah, so hopefully this kind of gives you a good idea, a good breakdown of what Blockcypher, how Blockcypher chooses to present its information. But let's go briefly to explorer.litecoin.net. This is actually what some guy, he's like a old school Litecoiner. He created this block explorer, and let's break it down real quick. First, you have like the currency. So this is just the front page of explorer.litecoin.com. The block tells you how many blocks are in the total blockchain. So that's how many blocks there are. Time is the last time the last block was relayed. Started, so this is the starting date of the Litecoin, or yeah, so I guess we can consider that the birthday of Litecoin. Age, this is set in days, so if you divide that by 365, it'll give you, I think, like 7 years. Coins created, how many coins are available and were created for Litecoin. Average CoinAge. So CoinAge, we'll talk about this a little bit more when we get to a specific block. And coin day 2. We'll talk about what that means. But the higher the percentage, the more real volume, Litecoin volume, you can have, or you can be sure that the Litecoin network has. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at this block, the newest block. All right, so the hash, this is the block header. This is how everything was hashed. This is the identity of the block. And notice how each explorer will have different, they'll organize and present the information differently. So depending on what type of information you want, yeah, choose your block explorer. But here for Blockcypher, we see that the block header is recorded up here. And so that is the block, that's how you identify between and distinguish between different blocks. So this tells you what the previous block was, what the next block is, and then the height. So that's the number of blocks in the blockchain and where this is in relation to that. Version, we talked about that. That's the type of software or what the miners are signaling. Transaction Merkle root. This is what SPV clients typically download. Time, this is the timestamp. This is also included in the block header. Difficulty. Now bits. Bits is actually a compressed version of the difficulty. And so rather than writing all this information down, they'll write down bits, and it's actually smaller in size and easier to transmit. And your nodes and your wallets will have the necessary information to decode what the difficulty is. But that's what gets relayed throughout the network. Cumulative difficulty. Not 100% sure what that is. But nonce is what we talked about earlier. It's the number that miners are trying to input into the hashing equation so that the result reaches below the threshold of the difficulty. Value out. This tells you how many Litecoins. Or I think this is in lights. I'm not 100% sure. This tells you how much Litecoin was sent, transaction fees that were collected. No, so this is, wow, this is how many Litecoins was sent in this block. It's a lot of Litecoins. Transaction fees, how much was collected in this one single block. All right, let's talk about average CoinAge days. Oh, okay, let's talk about CoinAge. CoinAge is something that isn't really talked about a lot anymore, but the concept is you date a coin by the first time it touches a Litecoin address. So if I send one Litecoin to a Litecoin address, then that's the first day. And then they measure the age of the coin by blocks. How many blocks has it been since that Litecoin has been sent to that address? And the idea is that the older the age of a coin is, the less its ownership is disputed, and therefore you know that someone isn't trying to spend it quickly, and you have more assurance that if in case of a split chain, that transaction will be permanently recorded. So there's no danger of it not being recorded in the blockchain if it's like, I don't know, 2016 blocks in, right? So that's what the concept of the CoinAge is. Because what somebody could be doing is they could, if they have like 51% mining hash rate of Litecoin, what they could do is they can spend like 3 or 4 times within a block, and then within the next block they spend that Litecoin again, and then they spend it again in the next Litecoin. But because they have 51%, they control which chain they choose to build on, right? And then so they can say, hey, we're going on this supposed fake chain, and we're spending all this, and then they get all the products that they spent, and then all of a sudden they switch to a different main chain that they submit to the network. And so that's why CoinAge that's the purpose of what CoinAge does. And CoinAge destroyed days. So that's the number of days. So if, let's say I send a Litecoin to a Litecoin address, and it's there for like, I don't know, 5 blocks. It's been there for 5 blocks. And then if I send it, those 5 blocks, they call that being destroyed. It's not like you're not literally destroying anything, but they just say it so that the counter starts back to 0. And so when it comes to this, the coin days destroyed, out of all the transactions in this block, there's been a cumulative 6765 blocks that have been destroyed. Okay, and then cumulative coin days destroyed is 80%. So the higher that is, the more assurance that you have that we have a real Litecoin, that we have real Litecoin volume. Because somebody could just basically be spending Litecoin back and forth between 2 addresses to fake volume, right? If I own 2 addresses and I want to pretend like Litecoin is transacting like millions of dollars, all I would have to do is spend like what, 30,000 Litecoins and send it back and forth between 2 Litecoin addresses, so I could be artificially creating the Litecoin volume that way. So if there's really low CoinAge days, and if that percent is really low, then chances are somebody's manipulating the Litecoin network, and they're trying to make it come off as if there's crazy high transactional volume when really it's not the case. So that's how you kind of break down the information that you see on a block explorer. But if we go to here, this also breaks it down for you. This gives you the transaction ID. Fee is 0 because it's the block reward. And then you have 25 Litecoins, and this is the cumulative fees of all the fees in this block together. And so total, that miner receives 25.258 Litecoins total. And one last thing I wanted to mention is, let's see if I can find one. Yeah, okay. So when it comes to these types of transactions, what we see is we have 1.08 Litecoin, and this person sent 0.32 Litecoins, right? And so this right here, and so the question is, like, why are there 2 outputs created? Well, one well, one is the 3.32 Litecoins that he first initially sent, and the second one right here, this is the change address. Because in order to spend from this wallet, from this Litecoin address, what you got to do is you got to cash out the whole wallet, or the whole Litecoins in the entire address, and it's got to be sent to one Litecoin address. But your wallet client has to send it to a second address. So that's what this change address is called. And so when you see this on the Explorer, all this is telling you is that somebody sent 24 Litecoins, and then 3.8 Litecoins was left over, and the wallet sent it to a change address. Right now, this is interesting. So you have one Litecoin address right here, and then all of a sudden you have 5 outputs. And the question is how? Like, how is this possible? Well, they do this through a technique called batching. And if you actually look at your basically what this does is batching. And so it's called to pay to many. And essentially what it does, it sends with one transaction, you can send to multiple addresses at the same time. And so what this means is instead of sending it just to one address, you can send it to multiple ones and save on transaction fees that way. So that's kind of how you make sense of a transaction history that you see like this. And this one had 4 inputs into one Litecoin address, and then they sent it to one address, but then they had a change address right here. So that's kind of how you break down how to read and explore. Cool. So let's go to the AMA that I got through SurveyMonkey. And the first question that I got is Litecoin versus Bitcoin Cash. Oh man, the ever eternal question, which is better? Well, let's start with some facts. Bitcoin Cash was a hard fork. That means, but Litecoin also was a fork, but it was forked off, but it had its own Genesis block. So this is the issue, because Bitcoin, they maintain the same mining algorithm, like Bitcoin Cash maintain the same mining algorithm as Bitcoin. And so this kind of steals resources from Bitcoin. And so this is kind of a bad thing. And that's why maybe like in the month of December, you saw all the miners switching back and forth between Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin, because they were all trying to determine which one, because they would mine whatever network was the most profitable. And so I think there was a period where Bitcoin had like, I don't know, 8-hour-long blocks, because all of a sudden all the hash power went to Bitcoin Cash. So I would say Bitcoin Cash is pretty like detrimental to the Bitcoin network, but Litecoin is trying to complement it, and it's obvious because we have our own Genesis block, we have our own script mining algorithm, and we're not taking any resources really away from Bitcoin Cash or from Bitcoin. And we're trying to complement Bitcoin through atomic swaps in the Lightning Network. And yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of interesting because Bitcoin Cash, you see Roger Ver on Twitter, and he's saying, Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin. Bitcoin Cash is the original vision of Satoshi Nakamoto. And I'm like, man, I think you are screwing yourself in the foot. You're shooting yourself in the foot, because if they sought to be the number 2, they might have a legitimate shot. Like, they might have a legitimate shot of having staying power in the ecosystem. But yeah, I don't know. I don't get why they're trying to become Bitcoin. It doesn't make sense to me. The next one, and then my final point is, I have to admit that Bitcoin Cash does have average cheaper fees right now. You can look that information up on BitInfo. But that's going to change. As soon as we change our minimum transaction fee per kilobyte to 0.0001 LTC, will have lower minimum transaction fees than Bitcoin Cash, and that's going to be huge. So the only issue is that it just hasn't been adjusted quite yet, and the 0.00 are the minimum transaction fee that we have right now is 0.01001 LTC. That is just a carryover from when Litecoin was like, I don't know, 2 digits. And so definitely it needs to be updated, and they are preparing the update for that by reducing the minimum relay fee to 0.00001. And then after that, they can input the new transaction fees. I love how Jihan said it's not Bitcoin. I don't know who to believe. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, they have figureheads and it's like pretty centralized, but yeah. Jihan, who initially was the person who pushed for Bitcoin Cash and forked Bitcoin Cash, and then Roger Ver, who kind of switched after Bitcoin B2X failed. And Bcash is a fix to an immediate problem to disregard to long-term solutions. Absolutely, Edwin. Absolutely. I think they just have a short-term mindset. Because if the solution is to continuously increase the blocks, then you are going to be in trouble. You're going to have a decentralized Bitcoin Cash network. All the miners are going to, who have all the money, you're going to have to trust their full nodes, or companies who randomly decide to run their own full nodes by buying expensive equipment. But to me, like, if you, I view the Bitcoin scaling vision as, you know, we're biting the bullet now and it sucks, and yes, transaction fees are high. It was at $20, now it's at like $9. Yes, it sucked. But the point is, we're building a future. So, and maybe by the end of 2018, when the Lightning Network is up and we can route all these payments for cheap, for 0 transactions, then, man, you can scale exponentially. Exponentially you can scale, as opposed to just 2 megabyte blocks, 4 megabyte blocks. The next question that I got, the resources to process those blocks in the time and relay them over the network. Yeah, that's true. The bigger the blocks, the longer it takes for nodes to download it. And so if I'm a miner and I'm blocking first, I have a clear advantage over other nodes in the network, because it takes other nodes in the network that much longer to download that block. And so that miner has, like, I don't know, let's say hypothetically speaking, I don't know the exact number, but it takes 5 minutes for, or like a minute for a node to download the most recent block, right? Let's say it takes them that long, a minute. That means the miner has a full minute advantage over all the other mining nodes in the network. And that can be a lot. ASICs can process like thousands of computations within that minute. And so it's an unfair advantage. And so it increases their chances of it being blocked. How does bigger blocks affect orphan percentage? It increases it. It increases orphan percentage, and it all has to do with like how fast these full nodes can download these blocks. Because the longer it takes, the more time it takes for nodes to find consensus. Good question, Edwin. What is the average fee to open up a payment channel on the Lightning Network? Well, to open and close a full Lightning Network channel, it's just one standard Bitcoin transaction fee, right? And so you want the average fee. So let's take the average fee for Bitcoin. So I'm gonna get us off this Litecoin versus Bitcoin screen. Okay, so what's the average fee to open up a payment channel? Right now, the average fee for Bitcoin is like $9, so half of that, so $4.5 to open the channel, $4.5 probably to close that channel. And every time you make a transaction on the Bitcoin network, it cuts that in half. So I open a channel for 4.5. I make one transaction. Okay, so that's 4.5. I make another transaction on the Lightning Network. Well, 4.5 gets halved in again, so 2.25, and then you keep having it over and over and over again for each transaction that you spend. And so the fee gets cut exponentially in that way. And so I don't know, like I'm not sure what the big deal is. And like here's my hypothesis, right? I think if we have 1 megabyte blocks for Bitcoin, what this does is it like increases the fee market, right? And this also is like a long-term look, I feel like, for what life is going to look like after block rewards. Because ultimately, when there are no more block rewards, there's going to be less incentive for miners to mine, right? Because that's where they're getting their money. It's not from the fees. But if there's a fee market, and let's say it costs like, I don't know, $100 to send a Bitcoin transaction, and you fill a block with those, then it might very much be possible for miners, or that might be enough of an incentive for miners to keep mining just based off of the transaction fees. But like how the Lightning Network factors into this is that, well, I pay $100 to open a channel, or to open and close a channel. So I pay $50 to open a channel, and every time I spend, it gets cut in half. So the more payments that I make on the Lightning Network, the less the fees get. And so in this way, it's like you can still have your cheap fees while still having a fee market. And it assures a sense of security for what life will be like after the block rewards are gone. And see, so I don't know. I haven't looked into it, but I don't know what Bitcoin Cash's game plan is after the block rewards are gone. Yeah, I don't know. And then the next question I got is, will ICOs be launched on top of Litecoin this year? Once RSK gets RSK gets ported onto Litecoin, and that's the RSK team. Like Diego, you can reach out to him on Twitter. He's going to be doing the he's going to be porting it onto Litecoin, and I think the Litecoin Foundation might help them with that. But as soon as we get RSK, we'll be able to do stuff like ICOs. So it's very possible. It's very possible that ICOs will be launched on top of Litecoin this year. It's very, very possible. And to be honest, you'll probably see it on Bitcoin first though, because of RSK. What is the relationship between Litecoin and the Bitcoin Lightning Network? What are the effects that it will have on Litecoin? Well, if you look in the description below, I input my link, the case for Litecoin via atomic swaps. Click on that, that'll break it down for you. But basically, it'll be cheaper to buy Bitcoin with Litecoin. It will be cheaper to buy Bitcoin with Litecoin even if you buy it through an exchange. Simply because if you're moving Bitcoin off of an exchange, you have to pay the mining fee. But if you buy Bitcoin with Litecoin through the Lightning Network, you split the Litecoin transaction fee with the Bitcoin transaction fee between two parties, and so it's a lot cheaper that way. But Franklin actually had a really interesting insight in regards to payments on the Lightning Network will most likely be in Litecoin, and you probably won't see it. And so the whole idea, I think, behind the Lightning Network is this is kind of the nitty-gritty stuff, like the skeletons, and hopefully people will build wallets, will build payment processors on top of the Lightning Network. And when it gets to that level, you actually won't be able to tell whether you're sending Litecoin or Bitcoin or whatever. And yeah, but that would only be possible with low transaction fees through Litecoin. Because right now they're at like 25 cents right now to an average Litecoin transaction fee. All right, last but not least from the AMA is this question. Let's go here. What Litecoin addresses starting with L is to BTC's 1, and LTC M addresses is to BTC 3. So those are Segwit addresses. What is the LTC equivalent to BC1? So BC1 is Beach 32 or Betch, or I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it. But I'm going to say Beach32. This is a new address format for Segwit addresses. And so I grabbed one, I downloaded Electrum LTC and threw one up here. So LTC1QF. This is an example of what a Beach32 Segwit address for Litecoin looks like. Right, and it's similar to BC1, but we see that the tag is LTC1. Now the advantages of having a Beach32 address is that it increases like the security for multisigs. It's this format is easier to fit onto QR codes, so it's harder to mess up. And if you notice this Beach32 address, it's all in lowercase, and then there's a couple numbers in there. So you don't there's less chance of messing this up. There's less chance of configuring between capital L or lowercase L, or if you know, if a lowercase L is actually an uppercase I. Some people, when they go on the subreddit and they're trying to recover their private keys or their Litecoin addresses, they write it down, but they don't know they don't know if it's a lowercase L or uppercase I. But a Beach32 address, Segwit address, will definitively let you know that there are no caps. So it makes it simpler and a whole lot easier to recover your addresses. And then if you're interested, I included a talk. I think it's by Peter Woolley, and it's under the Beach32 tag. And he goes in depth as to why he advocates for Beach32. So definitely take a look at that. Cool. All right. So that's all I got in terms of questions I received for the AMA on SurveyMonkey. Do you guys have any questions, or what do you guys want to talk about? You guys want to talk about the price? Some Litecoin news? I'm going to turn on the music a little bit. Thanks, Edwin. I struggled a little bit this time around. I'll be better prepared next time. Sorry about that. So I don't mumble as much. So Litecoin is like hidden. It's pretty low. Kind of in a bear market. I was looking at the Bitcoin chart. Let me see. And yesterday night, I thought it had the chance of hitting a double bottom. I'm gonna pull up the chart real quick. So I thought Bitcoin had a really good shot of hitting a double bottom yesterday. Let's see. And yeah. So on January 17th, it hit like 9,000. That's pretty low. And I thought last night it was heading down towards the 9,000 range again, but it never really hit that. It hit like 9.5. Okay. And so my hunch is that the bear market isn't over. If it hit the double bottom right here, I think we would have shot up for moon. But because it didn't and it missed it, and yeah, so it's not over yet. I think it'll last for a couple more weeks or something. Give us some expert TA. Gosh, I'm not a TA expert. Is LitePay still on track for February? Yep. At least as far as I know. As far as I know. Let's see. Yeah, you saw the double bottom? Yeah. 9.1. Yeah, Franklin, you're better at TA than I am. What are your insights? What do you see for the market? Is it gonna go up or is it gonna keep going sideways? And you know, I wrote this in the Litecoin newsletter that I sent out, but basically I think there are like one huge factor for the bear market, and it's the whole USDT tether thing, the FUD. And it's interesting because that Bloomberg released that, I think 2 days ago or yesterday, but the subpoena was like in freaking December. So what was Bloomberg doing between December and now? And like, why do they like sell it now? That doesn't make sense to me. Like, how can that not be market manipulation? Long term up, short term no idea, just playing it day by day. Yeah, I mean, long term for sure. I think for Bitcoin and Litecoin, I'm very bullish. Yeah, seriously, they seriously do want to create a opportunity to buy the dip. It's pretty frustrating. It's frustrating how dishonest media can be. What is the best way to market Litecoin? You know, it's pretty crazy. Like, this week has been pretty fun, especially like on the Litecoin Twitter world, because people have been randomly like tagging people on Twitter, and then there have been like tons of retweets. So that's been pretty fun. I think that's a good way to tweet. I think like Zinzi tagged Spotify, and then on the subreddit even people, there's this one redditor who was like, dude, if this post gets like 100 votes and if Cobley responds, then I'm gonna paste a Litecoin sticker on the Amazon HQ. And so Charlie legit responded, and he said he's gonna update us with the photo, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. That'll be fun. I think there's a lot of ways to market Litecoin just creatively. Just get out there, think of stuff. Like I created some posters. So you guys, okay, you guys will get this. I'm starting a new website. I'm moving away from Medium, and I'm gonna open up a new website, and that's gonna be coming maybe in the next 2 weeks. So look forward to that. And so my posters that I wrote that I'm gonna tweet out to the community is to hopefully point people towards my new website that people just can like paste up on walls and like street signs so that people can look at. And then I'll have like guides ready to help educate people. All right. Yeah, and I'm gonna let you know, like, there's a lot of activity on marketing right now on the Slack. There's a lot of activity. I don't know if you guys stayed tuned for the Litecoin Foundation live stream, but we had 3 marketing initiatives. One was from Always Hodl, that company, the clothing company with the that shares its revenue with the Litecoin Foundation. And then, so they're gonna keep doing this stuff. I think they're gonna be doing like a Litecoin trivia thing. Second is, what is it? Oh yeah, of Instagram campaign. So that's pretty cool. Basically, whoever's running the Litecoin Foundation Instagram is going to post a photo and have people mark it with hashtags, and people have to post the same Litecoin photo on their Instagram, and he's going to choose one winner, and that winner is going to win, I think, 0.5 Litecoin, which is a lot of money, man. 0.5 Litecoin just for reposting a picture and including a hashtag. Come on. That's pretty legit. I think that'll get a lot of traction. And then the third one is the one I think is going to be really cool, and I think has like the greatest chance to go viral. It's like getting your grandparents to explain cryptocurrency. I don't know. I'm expecting some like really cute videos of grandparents just trying to explain it, and I love that kind of idea just because it gives Litecoin such a wholesome feel, like a family feel. Yeah. The South Korea news yesterday was very positive. Yeah, that was really good. We are not officially banning cryptocurrency trading. All that was FUD, dude. Again, that's another example of like just terrible media practices. Cause the whole like ordeal was the fear of like, oh, South Korea's gonna ban exchanges. That was just like an idea, the one idea that the government officials had. And then, yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Jake Cochran, you created designs on Zazzle, mostly for watches. Hey, you're the guy who put Litecoin, the price of Litecoin on the smart coin, or on the smartwatch, right? Yeah, I can't wait for the grandparent videos either. That'll be really funny. And we just need some like light-hearted fun, you know? Oh, it's not you. Alright, my bad. But basically, like, just get out there with Litecoin marketing. Do what you can. Tag people. When you tag a business, tag me and I'll retweet you. I'm sure Litecoin Foundation, Charlie will do the same. There's a lot of stuff that we can do for marketing, but I'll tell you, there is a lot of activity. There's a lot of activity on the Litecoin Foundation site about marketing, so look forward to it, man. Look for these campaigns that we have and be excited. LitePay is coming in February, so that's a good thing. Can someone explain how multiple addresses into the same wallet works? Well, depending on the wallet that you have, well, basically your wallet client has a host of private keys, and your Litecoin addresses are tied to those private keys. And so, because your wallet client has ownership of the private keys and the addresses, you can spend from any one of those Litecoin addresses from your wallet. Does that make sense, David? And you might be talking about the Loaf wallet and how the addresses change every time. So that's called a hierarchical deterministic wallet, and so it uses seed keys, your seed keys, as a reference point to generate like hundreds, if not thousands, of Litecoin addresses. And what Loaf wallet does is, as soon as you receive payment from somebody, it'll automatically give you a new Litecoin address. So what this does is it protects your identity better. Because if you keep using the same address over and over and over again, people will like notice. People will see like how much Litecoin you have in that address, and they'll keep an eye on it. And then if that happens, they can keep track forever. They can keep track forever of that wallet address. Like, I think people made a big deal maybe this past week, and they said like, oh, someone's Bitcoin address from Bitcoin Talk just moved like 10,000 Bitcoins to a Segwit address. It's stuff like that. So like Bitcoin and Litecoin is pseudonymous, but it's not really anonymous. Like, yeah. So the pseudonym being your Litecoin or Bitcoin address. Anonymity meaning like nobody can really track you. But hopefully with confidential transactions, that'll help change. Confidential transactions with CoinJoin. With bulletproofs. With schnorsigs. Oh man, I love cryptocurrency, man. There's always so much happening. There's so many articles to read up on. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Can you spawn hundreds of wallets beyond the gap parameter in Electrum LTC without putting dust inside of them? Yeah, I have no idea. just gonna be honest. Let me tell you like what I do. I literally just read. I read articles. I read guides. I read through like the Bitcoin dev guide. But and like the more technical stuff, it's a little bit beyond me. Yeah. But I am devoted to learning, and I'm devoted to like, if you look at my Reddit post history, I post so many questions on Bitcoin, trying to get answers for the people who ask questions through my AMAs. So I may not be a Bitcoin expert or a Litecoin expert, but I will get you the answer that you need. Because I am devoted to my followers. Alright. I think that's it. Thanks for tuning in. You guys are the best. I promise I will be a whole lot better prepared for my next live stream. I won't stutter as much. Alright. Take it easy.